The dire humanitarian situation in Sudan continues to worsen. The UN says the conflict, which broke out last April between the army and a former allied militia known as the Rapid Support Forces or RSF, continues to take its toll on Sudan's large population. Aside from losing their homes, millions of people are reported to be on the brink of starvation. Already close to 20 million people have been described as acutely hungry, with millions of children said to be suffering from malnutrition. The UN's Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says urgent intervention is needed.
Time is running out for millions of people, including 3.6 million acutely malnourished children who are at risk of famine, and they are displaced from their lands, living under bombardments and cut off from humanitarian aid. As you know, Sudan is ravaged by war, of course, and it's also home to the largest number of internally displaced people in the world at nearly 10 million. A further 2 million people have fled to neighboring countries already.
The UN also sharply criticized the two warring parties, saying they were deliberately blocking deliveries of humanitarian aid to those who needed it the most. A situation the spokesperson said could spread the crisis into neighboring countries.
19 global humanitarian organizations, including 12 UN agencies, today warned that if they continue to be prevented from providing aid in Sudan rapidly and at scale, a famine will likely take hold in large parts of the country. More people will flee to neighboring countries, children will succumb to disease and malnutrition, and women and girls will face even greater suffering and dangers.
Fighting broke out in the capital Khartoum in April 2023 and quickly spread across the country, reigniting ethnic bloodshed in the western Darfur region. The UN says the total breakdown of law and order has put lives and dignity of millions of vulnerable people at risk.
Attacks against civilians, including sexual violence, are multiplying, and hospitals and schools are also coming under attack. At the same time, aid workers face systematic obstructions and deliberate denials of access by parties to the conflict. Movements across conflict lines to parts of Khartoum, Darfur, Al Jazeera and Kordofan have been cut off since mid-December. In March and April of this year, nearly 860,000 people were denied humanitarian aid in these areas.
However, the pleas of humanitarian corridors and even temporary ceasefires continue to fall on deaf ears. Earlier this week, the army rejected a call from Washington to return to the so-called Jeddah peace talks with the RSF. The talks have been stalled for months after failing to achieve a sustained ceasefire. Sharon Baranga, CGTN.